Burgers. Nature's way of reminding you that life is short and you're gonna die anyway, so you may as well live it up while you can. Time. Nature's way of reminding you that life is short and you're gonna die anyway, so you may as well live it up while you can. Burger Time, developed and manufactured by Data East and distributed by Bally Midway in the US in 1982. Yeah, it's time for burgers. It's burgers for time. It's Burger Time, and it was one of the more popular arcade games of '82 for good reason. It was fun. So fun that I'm going to review it, but not before letting you know about the Deco cassette system. Why? Because I am LGR and I'm just kind of like that. So let me tell y'all a story about how arcade games back in the day were released on unmodifiable boards filled with ROM chips and such. This meant that when an arcade owner wanted a new game, they had to buy an entire new cabinet or an entire new board, which was an expensive hassle that nobody liked, except for those with an unnatural penchant for chaos. So the Data East Corporation came up with an oddball solution to this problem they called the Deco cassette system, used with games like Burger Time, Lock and Chase, and several others. The idea was that you would still have all the regular hardware, but instead of the game burned onto chips already, you had a cassette tape that you'd insert into a special tape reader, which would then copy the game to the appropriate chips in 2 to 3 minutes. Pretty ingenious stuff, except that apparently the cassette transfers were often unreliable junk. They could be demagnetized, the game data could be corrupted, they'd wander off and give you wet willies in your sleep, and most of the games on offer were of pretty low quality. But not so with Burger Time. Burger Time had burgers and time, and it was awesome. Now, Burger Time also came on non-Deco boards, but whatever version you come across, you play as Chef Peter Pepper, assembling burgers ingredient by ingredient by stepping on them, smashing them through the floor, and dropping them down one piece at a time. Unsanitary as nuts, but who cares? You're a master chef with an alliterative name that gets results, and you can't argue with that. And you really should get hazard pay, because you also get chased by anthropomorphic foodstuffs, Mr. Hot Dog, Mr. Pickle, and Mr. Egg. And I have no idea why these foods are so deadly. I mean, why wouldn't you just eat them when they got near, right? What are they even going to do if they catch you? On second thought, I don't want to know. So the idea is to not touch these freaks, and if they do get too close for comfort, make like an overzealous riot cop, and pepper them in the face so they're disabled temporarily. You can also drop food down on top of them or drop them with the food, which adds another layer of complexity that's just the right amount of complex for you to not fry your brain over. Another example of fantastic arcade gameplay that gobbled up credits with its deceptive simplicity, so of course it got all sorts of ports and conversions to home systems of the day. From here on we'll be looking at 2 of my favorites, the Mattel Intellivision and the IBM PC Booter versions. First is the Intellivision, and yeah, just considering the controller for this system with its weird golden directional disc, you may assume that a game like this requiring quick and precise movement may suck with it. But on the contrary, for an arcade conversion to a console of this time period, this is actually really good stuff. Sure, the levels may be a bit lacking in complexity, and the graphics are lacking in color enough to make the burger patties look more like fat green turds, but the gameplay is still there, and that's what matters. Wander around, dodging evil food, eating non-evil food for points, stomping on food for your paying customers, and macing the crap out of anything that looks at you funny. It's Burger Time with slightly different levels basically, and that's more than fine by me for such an early home arcade conversion, and the weird controller doesn't even get in the way due to the way the controls are programmed. It gives you a tiny bit more leeway in when you have to change directions, and once you get used to it, it's incredibly forgiving, while still remaining just as challenging as the arcade original. And as a bipedal cherry on top, the sound and music are actually pretty darn good too, thanks to some clever programming of the Intellivision's AY38910 sound chip. As a result, this is one of my favorite games for the system, and it's just an enjoyable version of Burger Time regardless. But arguably even better is the IBM PC version, also converted by Mattel. And yeah, the PC wasn't known for decent arcade conversions in the early to mid-80s at all, so saying that may come as a surprise if you're me, or someone like me, and in that case, wow, we're really strange, aren't we? Anyway, this is a pretty sweet arcade conversion for 1982 on the PC, and it starts with the options menu. You can change the speed the game plays at, the level you start on, customize the controls, and even the sound and video options. Unfortunately, the graphics and sound are pretty weak in this version due to the limitations of PC hardware at the time. Well, sort of, but we'll get to that later. What we'll get to now is the fact that the level layouts and gameplay are far closer to the original arcade game, which is just fantastic. And it's actually even more playable than the arcade version, thanks to the similar lax handling of the changing of directions like the Intellivision game. You just don't have to be so stinking precise on when you move on or off ladders, which makes evading enemies that much easier once you learn how to plan your moves slightly ahead of your character's location. And it's especially welcome if you speed up the game a wee bit, which really adds some extra challenge if you need it without it being entirely too annoying. But remember what I said about the graphics and sound kinda sucking? Yeah, the sound is pretty much suck regardless, but if you had a color composite monitor instead of an RGB one, you could actually do something about the graphics in the options menu. Due to how composite color is output to a CRT display, programmers could actually sort of trick the computer into showing more than the standard 4 colors of CGA at once, which makes the game look incredibly close to how it should. It's slightly blurrier to look at here, but on a real monitor it actually looks quite superb. Either way though, the gameplay is freaking solid in this version, and while there are plenty of others to choose from, it is the classic home conversion I go back to the most. And if you weren't familiar with Burger Time before now, well, it's just a game I'd really recommend if you like classic arcade goodness and squishing ingredients through floors with your feet.